Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to my basement in the great state of Kansas. And this is part 2 of my video of what I've been watching in the last couple of weeks. So just covering a couple mini reviews of some movies I've been seeing and giving you my opinion. So stay tuned to see what's here on part 2 of Jason the Old Millennial. Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well here on Saturday. And this is part 2. I did part 1 just a little bit ago, trying to cover all the movies I haven't talked about yet on the channel. Some a couple weeks ago, some just a couple days ago. I just kind of caught on to watch, and definitely got some interesting ones here to talk about. First one I'm going to talk about is Hocus Pocus 2. Yes, the sequel to the Hocus Pocus, which I saw in the theater when I was a kid. And I remember really loving the first movie, seen in theater. It wasn't until later, as an adult, I kind of went back and watched it again, and I kind of find the first movie to be kind of boring and not that interesting, but still kind of a child classic in a way. And I think it's still somewhat. I think it's definitely a beloved movie, kind of kids Disney movie made in the '90s. Anyway, so. Saying that, I wasn't excited or interested in getting a sequel to this movie, and I was kind of surprised when it was like, oh, they're gonna do a second one. Why? And it's like I don't know. I didn't need to watch it, but it's like it's on Disney Plus. It's streaming. It's easy to access to. I've heard other people talk about it, so I'm like, might as well just grin and bear it. Knew it wasn't gonna be any good, but went ahead and watched it a couple days ago, or this just not too long ago. And it's about everything I thought it was going to be, just not that interesting of a movie. And it was just like, the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, why make this movie? Like, there was no reason to bring back these characters or to do it again. Because I thought the first movie ended the characters in a good way, where they defeated these 3 witches and they disappear at the end. It's like, there was really, I don't remember there really being a cliffhanger or anything that says, oh, hey, we need to bring these characters back, or these characters are going to come back. Of course, obviously, it's been like 30 years since the last movie or more, so obviously they had no plans of bringing them back, so I don't know. It's a grab. It's Halloween time, so they're trying to think of what Halloween-themed movie have we done in the past that we can reboot or do a sequel to put on Disney Plus, I guess. It's maybe just to make for content, like Disney Plus needs to keep making content. And they came with Hocus Pocus 2, whatever. Disney's done lots of made-for-TV type movies that aren't that good. So I just put this amongst one of those, like, it's almost made-for-TV movie that was like, nobody really wanted or asked for, as far as I knew. And I haven't really heard anybody give good reviews, and there's not much to say about it. It was just like a blah movie. Just like, I just didn't see it. It wasn't that funny. The storyline not that interesting. And did we want Bette Midler back? I mean, Bette Midler was never that big of an actress in my opinion. So I was like, can Bette Midler carry a movie now? Like, she hasn't been a movie star, if she ever was a movie star, for a long time. Yeah, so it's just didn't need it. That's my opinion. 2 stars in my opinion on Hocus Pocus 2. Next movie I caught on HBO Max is an older movie called Time After Time. Which I'm forgetting, I think it was in the 70s it came out. And it's an interesting premise. It's about back in like the 1800s in England. H.G. Wells, I believe was an author that wrote this book or a movie that dealt with time travel. And so this premise is that H.G. Wells really did invent a time machine, and it was during he's in London during the time period of Jack the Ripper, who was killing the women in London. It was like the first like big serial killer that, you ever hear about. And the idea is that Jack the Ripper was actually this guy that H.G. Wells knew and was friends with, but didn't know he was Jack the Ripper. And it was this, and all of a sudden the police catch on that who Jack the Ripper is. And so this guy who's his friend jumps into the time machine and jumps into the future. Anyways, and so H.G. Wells decides that he's going to also go into the future to grab this former friend who's kind of feels betrayed that he was, this murderer all the time. I guess go to the future in America, I believe in L.A. or in California, I believe. I can't remember exactly, or maybe it's New York. I don't know. But anyway, so he goes into the future to grab Jack the Ripper, I guess, and bring him back to that present day, or London, to put him on trial or something. Anyways, so it's kind of an interesting premise, kind of out there premise. Like, never thought that was a plot I'd ever thought I'd see, but yeah. So overall, it kind of begins pretty interesting. Like I said, when you find out who the Jack the Ripper is, and then he went to the future, and he's got to go to the future, and I like at first. Malcolm McDowell plays the H.G. Wells character, and I kind of like him. He's very good, I think, and he's kind of the smart scientist type guy. And so now he's in the future, and now he's seeing all these future inventions, and he's marveling at all these future things. And that part is kind of interesting. I kind of enjoy that part of the movie of him getting, doesn't know what cars are or planes, and him just being marveled at everything. I love he goes to McDonald's to eat fast food for the first time. And then later on, talks about, oh, I ate at this Scottish restaurant, meaning McDonald's. He thought it was a Scottish restaurant. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty funny. But then he meets this bank teller played by Mary Steenburgen, and they all of a sudden start this romance relationship. And it's like the whole point of the movie was he's going to go and try to grab Jack the Ripper and bring him back to London to face, his crimes. And then it kind of gets muddled into this whole romantic relationship that comes out of nowhere. Mary Steenburgen's character just sees him and is like, oh, that guy's cute. I want to, I want to get to know him. And it's like, okay, you're a bank teller. You see all these guys all day, every day. And just this one guy just all of a sudden, who happens to be our main character. Just coincidence that it's just by, coincidence that our main character is the one that she's attracted to. And so then they, so it's just for convenience sake for the plot that she kind of falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her. It's such a short notice, and we kind of forget, oh yeah, the whole purpose to come to the future was to get Jack the Ripper. Anyway, so it kind of the movie drags on the farther it goes. And so it's a good premise, but doesn't land totally for me. So I'd give it 2.5 stars. It's close to a decent movie, but not quite there for me. So that's Time After Time. Next movie is a movie called The Cheap Detective. This is a movie I caught on YouTube Movies. YouTube does free movies that you can watch, and some pretty good ones on there. And I've been trying to check out movies that I haven't seen yet that I thought might be interesting. And this was one. It stars Peter Falk, and I'm a fan of Peter Falk from the Columbo TV show. So when I saw him in this movie, I was like, okay, I'll check this movie out. It was made in like 1978, I believe it was. And it's a spoof movie off of the film noir movies. Peter Falk plays a private eye named Sam Diamond, which is a play off of Sam Spade, which Humphrey Bogart plays in Maltese Falcon, and I think some other movies. And so it definitely is playing off of Maltese Falcon, definitely a spoof off of that. And then they also go into a cafe, and also we're doing a Casablanca spoof that kind of comes out of nowhere, but okay. That goes on for quite a while. And then there's even a little bit of a Chinatown spoof, I think, in there. They're trying to do a little bit of parody of that as well. I like spoof movies, parody movies, so at first I was kind of enjoying the movie, and it's written by Neil Simon, who's a really good screenwriter, very good comedic screenwriter, so I was like intrigued. And Peter Falk is very good in the lead. He's actually pretty funny. He's perfect. It's like perfect casting. He totally, because he has that kind of, he does kind of the film noir with Columbo already, so he's kind of made for this kind of role. And there's some laughs there, not huge laughs, but there's some dialogue that I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. And I'm not a huge fan of the film noir genre, so I wasn't like totally into the spoofs, the movies that he was spoofing or were really getting into it. I kind of got what they were going for with it. Pretty good cast overall. I especially like Madeline Kahn. Madeline Kahn is always hilarious about everything I see her in. I'm always happy to see her, and she comes in and as one of these, damsels that, someone's trying to murder her or something, and she went to this private eye, or someone murdered somebody, and she appears out throughout the movie, and she's pretty good. Overall, again, I'd say it's an okay movie. Not quite good enough to recommend. Not enough laughs there for me to say, yeah, had enough, I didn't laugh enough to really give a recommendation. So again, I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was a nice try, and I did enjoy Peter Falk, but overall it kind of failed for me at the end as being a recommendable movie. Okay, next we're going to talk about interesting movie called Lolita. If you don't know, it's a Stanley Kubrick film that he did in the 60s. uh, and it's a bit controversial film. If you know anything about it, it's based off of a controversial book, and the only reason why is I saw this on HBO Max, and the only reason why I watched it was because Jacob Martin's his channel. He goes through different director movies, and he's covering every movie directed by Stanley Kubrick, because one of the directors he's been covering. And since Stanley Kubrick only made 12 movies, I'm trying to catch up with all the movies I haven't seen from Stanley Kubrick, so that when Jacob Martin does his countdown and ranks all of the 12 movies, I kind of can, participate and rank my own 12 movies, instead of being like, oh, I haven't seen half of these movies. Anyway, so I thought, oh, I'll try to catch as many of these Stanley Kubrick movies as I can. So I've been kind of going through his filmography. If you see my last Gauntlet, I went through some of his movies. And in fact, me and Jacob Martin are going to be talking about Dr. Strangelove, my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie, on Wednesday at 8 o'clock my time on Jacob Martin's channel. So I think we're going to have a fun conversation about kind of a satirical comedy. Anyways, Lolita is one of his movies, and the problem with the movie is that it deals with a British middle-aged guy played by James Mason. I can't remember his name. Not James Mason. I can't remember his name now. He's not an actor I'm real familiar with, but I've heard about. He comes to America. He's a professor, and he's finding a place to rent, and he finally finds this place to rent. And the mother, played by Shelley Winters, and Shelley Winters has a 14-year-old daughter who, when James Mason first comes to the house, sees her. She's sunbathing in a bikini in the backyard, and he's immediately attracted to her, and so he decides to take it. I think, and it's kind of pretty much implemented that he took it because he was attracted to the 14-year-old daughter. And so the whole movie kind of takes this place where he's really he definitely likes this daughter. And he's dating the mother. The mother's all over him. And he doesn't really, I don't think, care about the mother, but he's dating the mother because he wants to be close to her 14-year-old daughter. And they even kind of have a relationship kind of towards the middle end of the movie. And so, as you can see by, just that premise, it's a very unsettling, creepy premise that I have a really hard time getting behind just from the beginning. I'm not sure why they made this movie. I can't believe anybody liked this movie. I just don't get it. I don't know. I don't want to call it a romantic movie because I don't want there to be any romance between this middle-aged guy and this 14-year-old girl. I just don't want that relationship to work. And it doesn't. Nothing really comes about it really in the end. But he's just pining for her throughout this movie. You can tell. And they're definitely very sexualizing this 14-year-old girl. Like I said, the first time you see her, she's in a bikini, which I was kind of surprised because I was like, wow, this is the early 60s. I didn't think they showed girls in bikinis yet. It seemed like something later in the 60s that they kind of pushed that. But so I was like, okay, now I'm seeing a 14-year-old girl in a bikini. I was, okay. In fact, the movie starts the opening credits is you see the feet of this girl, and she's getting a pedicure, what do you call it, on her feet. And it's just a close-up of her feet, basically getting a pedicure. And I'm like, this is how they're starting the opening credits. I was like, is Quentin Tarantino directing this movie? I was like, okay. So I always feel like we started off on a wrong foot, pun intended. A close-up of this woman's bare feet, I don't know, it's just really weird. And Peter Sellers comes in the movie, and he's just so not funny and very annoying. And I was like, I just want him to go away. It was just a bad premise, and it's a boring movie. And I'm the whole movie, I'm not pulling for anybody. I don't want any of this to work out. So I don't know. It was just a total failure all around for me. I'd give this a 1. I'd give it a half star. In fact, I think I gave it a half star, the worst rating I can give it, just because I just cannot recommend this. Nothing enjoyable about this movie at all, in my opinion. So that's Lolita. Okay, I'm going from that movie to another very cringy, hard to watch movie. The last movie I'm going to talk about, one I have a lot of opinions on. We'll see what we can get to. And infamous movie on Netflix called Blonde, which deals with a fictional story on Marilyn Monroe. So it's not a true story. It's not a biography necessarily of Monroe, though it kind of goes through like a biography, starting her with as a child, and kind of goes through her movie career to when her death, basically. So you kind of get that, but the whole story is not a true story. It's based off of a fictional book that came up, I don't know, kind of like a alternative story of what going on with Marilyn Monroe, you know. So none of it you can take for truth at all, and they kind of basically tell you that. So you're watching it going, okay, none of this is true. Why am I watching it? It doesn't make much sense. It's like a almost 3 hour movie, if I'm right. So it's very long. It's very slow moving, extremely boring. It's a very weird movie. It's NC-17, which I don't try to go out to watch NC-17 movie. In fact, kind of the funny part of this whole thing is that when I remember when they first announced Blonde, NC-17, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to watch that movie because I mean, I'm not going to watch an NC-17 movie. Like that's too much for me. So I had no plans in ever watching this. Didn't think I would or whatever. But then when we got closer to it coming out on Netflix, I just felt like I saw a lot of people like talking about it and like people were going to review it. And I thought there's a lot of buzz around the movie. I kind of thought, oh, maybe this is an Oscar style movie. Maybe De Armas, whoever the actress that plays Marilyn, maybe she'll get Best Actress. I don't know. There's some kind of buzz there, and it seems like people are talking about it. So I was like, I started thinking maybe I should watch it just so I can be in the conversation. I can understand what people are talking about, and I can be part of it and make a video like this. And it's on Netflix, so I'm like, well, again, if it was in a movie theater, I just wouldn't go see it. But when it's on streaming, it's like, well, it's so convenient. It's right there. It's so easy to get a hold of. Why not? That's I say that a lot on the streaming movies. I'm like, yeah, why not? It's there. You know, I want to watch something. Anyway, so as we got to Blonde, I was like, well, I guess I'll watch it just so I can be a part of it, whatever. And right before I was going to watch it, Mike from Did You See That gave a review and basically said it's a horrible movie. Like, don't watch it. Like, he's telling you, don't waste your time. You know, he's kind of warning everybody, don't watch this movie. It's terrible. And so I was like, okay. And then I started thinking, okay, maybe I won't watch it because Mike gave such a resound, don't watch it. And so I was kind of like, okay, I guess maybe I won't watch it. And then I got into a conversation with Mike on his channel. He did a hangout on Did You See That some weeks ago. And I was talking to him about the movie and about how, like, man, he really didn't like that movie. And I started thinking, like, I was on the fence of watching it, but since he said don't watch it, I was kind of not going to watch it. And then Mike, somehow he says to me, he says, yeah, it's terrible, but I'd love to see your viewpoint on it. And so Mike, by telling me not to watch it, somehow he convinced me to watch it. I don't know how he did it. It was some kind of voodoo magic that Mike did on me, where I was like, I was going to watch it. And then when he told me, like, oh yeah, you shouldn't watch it, but I wish you would so I can hear your viewpoint. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I shouldn't watch it, but yet, Mike, you want me to watch it so you can hear my viewpoint. Like, okay. So I was kind of like back on to like, okay, I guess I'll watch it. Like I was going to watch it, I was not. And then now Mike somehow talked me into watching it, even though he told me it was a terrible movie. So it's funny how it worked that way. Like, I don't know how Mike did it, but Mike did it. And so I would say like, thank you, Mike? Question mark? No, thank you. But at least I got to watch something and talk about how one of the worst movies I've ever sat through. I mean, it is absolutely horrible of a movie. Like I said, slow moving, boring, too long. And just the scenes don't really make a lot of sense. A lot of abuse. I mean, the whole movie is about how Marilyn Monroe's like been abused her whole life, and we get to see that. And it's like, oh, I don't want to see someone being abused. You know, that's not fun to watch. It's such a strange shot movie because it's black and white throughout most of it. But every once in a while, it'll go into color for no reason, it seems like. All of a sudden, it's black and white, now it's color, now it's black and white. Also, the ratio changes where it goes wide, it goes short. So I don't know what he's trying to do there. He's trying to make something interesting, I guess, by doing all these, technical stuff. And I feel like it definitely was like a movie that definitely didn't have substance, but was more about style. It was definitely that the director was going for a certain style, I guess. Almost like artistic, style. Because it seems like a lot of shots where nothing's going on, but he definitely loves showing De Armas, looking pretty, So it's like he's showing these very long shots of her just looking pretty and nothing's going on. So it's like, okay. So it's just like, I might as well just watch it. a painting. Like I might put a painting on the video, and I can just watch a painting of something beautiful. You know, I don't need. If you're making a movie, though, we need substance. We need something going on. We need a plot. We need, you know, a pace. You need an end game that we're driving towards, and character developments and all this stuff that's not in this movie at all. In fact, I feel like every scene I was like, I didn't understand what was going on in the scene. It was just like Marilyn Monroe, she walks in the room, there's a guy. I have no idea who this guy is. She's talking to him. I'm like, okay, what's going on? There's something going on here. And then another guy appears. I'm like, okay, I don't know who this guy is. Who are these two guys? What's her relation with them? I have no idea from watching the scene. Next thing I know, they're having a threesome. I'm like, why are they having a threesome? Did I miss something? Are they in a relationship? Are they supposed to be important? And then they kind of appear throughout part of the movie. So I'm like, okay, these are important characters. I just don't know who they are. And I felt like the whole movie was like that. Every time I got in a scene, I was like, okay, who are these people? Why is she having sex with this guy? Why is she topless in this scene? I just don't know. None of it really connected to and made sense. And from each scene, like, there's no connection. You need to connect every scene together. It needs to have some kind of purpose. It just felt like a movie with no purpose or connection or cohesiveness to it. Anyways, and just kept going on and on. I was like, I just don't feel like this movie is going anywhere. There's no, why make this movie? I just don't get it. And it's definitely probably the worst movie of the year. I can't imagine a movie being worse right now. If it is, man, I don't want to watch it. That's for sure. One of the worst scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Throughout the movie, she gets pregnant a couple times. And if you know anything about Marilyn Monroe, she never had a baby. So, of course, like I said, this is a fictional story. So I don't know if she ever got pregnant. Who knows? This movie isn't supposed to be true. So who cares, you know? But I'm watching it and she gets pregnant. I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. Does she have a miscarriage? I don't think it's ever, if she does, I missed it. Because I was like, she never has a baby. So like all these pregnancies she has, I'm like, did she have a miscarriage or what happened to the baby? It's kind of like, it's supposed to be like a sad movie about Marilyn Monroe, which is like, who wants that? And how she like wants to have a baby and a family. And it's almost like she doesn't want to be an actress, but she has to make money or something. And anyways, and there's one part where she's like pregnant and she has the baby, and she's talking to the baby and the baby's talking back to her. So it's in her stomach, and we get like a CGI baby in her stomach that's talking back to her. It is one of the stupidest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. I was like, I wanted to walk out, but I was at home, so I couldn't walk out in the movie. It's like if I was in a movie theater, I'd be like, I'm done. Walk out the movie. Like, I can't take this. I seriously, at that point, I was like, yeah, this is too much for me. Like, I'm barely getting through this movie. And now she's talking to this fictionalized baby. I was like, oh, it's so cringy and weird and stupid. And definitely took the cake where I was like, yeah, this is like the worst movie ever anyway. So yeah, so that's my big rant on Blonde. Terrible, terrible movie. I don't recommend it, and really do not watch this movie. I cannot say it enough anyway. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Blonde. So yeah, so that's the end of this and the end of what I've been watching lately. So just feel free to tell me what you think about these movies, especially Mike. I hope you enjoyed that review, Mike, especially for you. Anyways, and so yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking the video. And thank you to all of my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a good day.